you. Thank you for coming this big lunch. So still we are eating. Thank you very much for coming here. I congratulate you on behalf of the Ethiopian community. Since our chairman is not here, so I talk on behalf of his name. Thank you very much. So I just want to brief for 2 points. One is about Africanism, Pan-Africanism, and the second one, our friends, the colleagues, outgoing colleagues, Madam Sarah, Madam Halima, and Madam Sios. I just want to congratulate 3 of them. I worked with them together for a long time, so they are friendly people, and they represented our country by all their levels. Thank you very much for representing us, for the good service you are giving, especially our Ethiopian natives which are here in the embassy. Thank you very much. Our government always represents Africanism, Pan-Africanism. I think we are the, mostly, I might say, okay, our hosts also, they are good, but we are also the leaders, mostly leading in Pan-Africanism here. So our new ambassador, thank you very much for following the same path which we are doing before here. Thank you very much. So I congratulate everyone here. I don't want to take more time. Thank you very much.
It's a fact. I witnessed. I can authoritatively say, like Adam said before, it's a fact, it's true. But beyond that, Ethiopia has a unity park which I managed to visit and interacted with its history. Its famous leaders who resisted colonialism, like Menelik, Emperor Selassie. But coming from a background of media, it gives me, it's a challenge, because in Uganda, when Adam can attest to this, when normal programming ends for most TV stations, they switch to BBC, CNN, Al Jazeera, and those stations already have a narrative they are pushing. So you won't find news about Ethiopia, it being the motherland of Africa, the bastion of African resistance against colonialism. Instead, you will find their narratives and how the West wants to have a grip on world politics. So as a journalist, as someone who runs a news website, it's a challenge to me to be able to inform, to also create a narrative, if you may say, about African affairs. It's been said a long time that Africans should tell their own story. But what is our story? Our story is that, part of it is that not all Africa was colonized. We can look back and say that at least we managed to resist through Ethiopia. So whenever there is an attack against Ethiopia, it's our duty to stand with our Ethiopian brothers and sisters and defend our bastion of that hope against colonialism. During our visit of the Unity Park in Ethiopia, one of the guests, one of the people who were with us, the tour guide, so you mean Emperor Haile Selassie was Ethiopian? Like, it took me back because it showed the level of, if I may say, ignorance that we have and which has been built, say, from our school curricula, and like the role of the media that I mentioned. We consume a lot of Western media which has an agenda that is against, say, the history of Africa, because they want to paint a picture that Africa without them cannot be. And during the, if you may recall, during before the war in Iraq and Afghanistan, you find that most of these media houses in the West would do away with ethical journalism, so the ethics in journalism, and write editorials supporting the war in Iraq. So they became subjective in their way of work to support their government's policy. It means we can also go against the ethics of journalism, of our professional work, when Africa is threatened. Because as we know, the war in Iraq, like we have been fed on information that there were nukes, was false. So it's our duty to inform. And as an editor, I commit myself to following that line of information, because the role of the media is to inform, to educate, to entertain. I commit myself to doing the same in the field of Pan-Africanism. My takeaway from the conference was that Ethiopia was telling the rest of the riparian states that, look here, this is our river. We can either choose to share it and benefit, or leave it open to say interference, influence, and have ourselves destroyed. Because along the River Nile Basin, there are countries which go under the influence of external forces. And you find that that informs their decisions in managing the affairs of the Nile. So, but Ethiopia was telling the rest of the nations that it's our duty to share, to make our own decisions, to define the Nile for ourselves. And like the Deputy Prime Minister, His Excellency Mekonnen, I hope I pronounce his name well.
Yes.
He mentioned that it can be the Nile can be a tool for diplomacy, to be able to express yourselves in the continent and in the rest of the world, so that they can understand your position and appreciate it, that this is our resource and we have every duty to utilize it equitably as defined by us, but not under the influence of external forces. Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for making the trip possible. I had the opportunity to reconnect with history during the visit of the Unity Park, like I mentioned earlier. And I have a lot to write. I've written before, but I feel it's not yet, I'm not done. Thank you very much.
And if you can master that energy, and I believe Prime Minister Abiy understands this, but the challenge, I believe, with the common Ethiopian today is the challenge, the way to jump out. But like the problem, of course, if you take too long, by the time you choose to jump out, it may be too late. You might have lost the energy to jump out and you will die in the water. What are those contradictions? What are those things that Ethiopia is constantly adjusting to as the temperature gets hot? You got to ask yourselves as Ethiopians, what are those things? And you begin to solve them. Because if you don't, you keep adjusting. You can do away with Prime Minister Abiy and put somebody else, you've adjusted. Remove that one, put someone else, you've adjusted. Eventually, it will become so hot that you will choose to jump out, but by then you would have lost all the energy, the resources, the unity, the understanding of the people, of you yourselves, the people in the Amhara, Oromo, the understanding that you are strong in diversity more than you are individually. You have lost all of those things, and to be too late, your country factually will be the next Yugoslavia. These are the facts that people need to appreciate. I say them, doesn't matter who gets out in the wrong place, but I know that we know Ethiopia, and nobody will want Ethiopia to go off the map as it is as Ethiopia. Can you imagine tomorrow if you go and see you have the map of Ethiopia as a country will no longer exist? it is not just an Ethiopian problem. It comes down to us as Africans because we look so much to Ethiopia. My first engagement with Ethiopia was at school. The only, history tells you so much about the world, but the only time I felt like something was being spoken about Africa in a sense of victory was when there was mention of Ethiopia in my history lessons, about Emperor Haile Selassie, about, of course, Emperor Menelik, about your victory in the days of the empire. And that gave me a sense of pride. I said, well, even because everywhere they would say they conquered here, they conquered these ones in Kenya, they conquered the ones in another place, and then they come to Ethiopia and they say they were able to defeat the other ones. And so it gave me a sense of pride. That's why I'm very deliberate about insisting that we shouldn't and we can't afford to do anything that risks this country getting jeopardized in its unity and its continued exemplary leadership of Africa. Mr. Matwa spoke of Ethiopia mentally liberating Africa and all of that. The other day I was listening again, following discussions on social media, and some people were foolish enough to forgive me for the strong word. And also, if I say that in the context of Your Excellency, when you began your press here, you spoke in Amharic, we didn't speak in English. And it kind of dawned on me because recently some people have been making a lot of jokes here and there saying there was a time when the Prime Minister of Ethiopia was somewhere and he didn't speak well in English, and they were here laughing and thinking that was something so special. They were trying to say it's not this and that. And I say this is still mental slavery because while other people are proud, you never criticize the Chinese when they go and they speak funny English in international forums. You don't criticize the Indians when they go and speak funny English, but you wait when your leader speaks funny English, and then you think that is a point of trying to discredit him. And I was asking somebody the other day who called the same argument. I had an argument with him a bit on Twitter. He actually came to me in the inbox. Sometimes they come when they're your bitter. When I defended the notion that you shouldn't really put the issue of language above else. I told him that you who is claiming that somebody should be so proficient in English, in your village, are you the richest? Told him in my country, the chances are so many, like in my country place, that those who are wealthiest can't even construct a sentence in English. I told him, you drive the most expensive car, you who thinks that being fluent in English is so important. I told him, chances are so many that you have to walk, and each time you have to go to Kampala like me, you have to go to a bus that's owned by a man who can't construct a sentence in English. And I told him finally that at a country-wide level, if you come from a country where English is the major and official language, although not native, that's in Africa, is your country the economic leader in this region? Chances are many, if the main language is English and it's in Africa, that country is not the economic leader. Because if you look at the whole of Africa, Ethiopia is the economic leader. Your GDP is the fastest. Even in Africa, you don't speak English as the main language. In East Africa, Kenya is the big economy, bigger. They speak Swahili as the main language. The other economy big enough is Tanzania. They don't speak English as the main language. You could name so many other places, and the examples show you that language is not a measure of the credibility of leadership. Indeed, it's on the contrary that countries which speak English mostly, despite English not being native to their country, are performing much better on different points. And I'll just give you those examples. Uganda speaks English, we speak English mostly. I think we're one of the weakest economies in the region. Is that not true? And those are the facts. So the argument of language doesn't matter. And instead, like my friends have indicated, it's a sense of mental slavery, because while we went off physically, we still remain mentally enslaved. And that for me remains the biggest challenge that Africa is facing. Ethiopia, as I conclude, is giving leadership. Ethiopia has given us leadership from the day one, and it continues to give leadership. He mentioned the issue of the funding model. Very significant, because every project, even projects of 50, I don't know, small money is about maybe 10 times less than the amount that is being used to build the guard, are funded by World Bank. Now the idea is if the guard can succeed, and I believe, I said this last time, that the biggest challenge that the West has with Ethiopia is your challenge of giving us leadership all the time. Giving Africa leadership. You want to construct the guard using your own money. What if Uganda adopts the same model? Who will take the World Bank loans? We must help you. That is your challenge. See that? You refuse to be colonized. And you end up making some of us to see that perhaps we shouldn't be colonized as well. That was your first historical mistake, your biggest sin for this country. So that, I mean, to those who want to destroy your country, you always give your leadership. The God itself is an example of leadership that you are giving to Africa. Look at the span that has taken. I don't know if, but if you follow, almost every Ethiopian leader has a hand, has a fingerprint on the God. In Africa, when Museveni tomorrow goes, the next one to come will make sure that whatever he has in place stops, because he doesn't want the credit to go to Museveni.
Rubbish everything.
Yes, he will begin his own and say this one should go off because he doesn't want the credit to go. Different with Ethiopia. Another example for Africa, that it doesn't matter how much you disagree politically. When you become a leader, you must look at the interests of the country first. And if there is something good that leader is doing, please carry it on. I was happy to watch the success in recent years. One of the arguments now among Ethiopians, I normally follow them online, is those in Tigray keep saying, it was Mele Zenawi. He is the one responsible. You know, they are trying to take the credit for the dam. The others also are doing so. They are saying, it is Abi, the ones from Abi's ethnic place. And for me, that is actually a good argument because it shows that they all appreciate that the land is something that is bigger than all of these leaders. But it should further go to these leaders that all of them contributed to this land. Another lesson for Africa, where we keep changing presidents. We should know that regardless of how we leave power, whoever comes in should carry on the legacy. Another lesson for Africa being given by Ethiopia. So the founding model, the issue of continuity itself is another big lesson for Africa. And so many others. You are the biggest airlines in this country. I told you I wanted to have sat at the window of Ethiopian Airlines. I think next time I make sure Madam knows that that's a special case. Make sure you're carrying me, put me on the window. I want to see. I'm coming.
In fact, the area manager is right here. You can just pass the message right over there.
Please make sure I'm at the window. I want to see. I couldn't see the clouds when I was there. So that is the Ethiopian Airlines, another significant achievement. So to conclude this, there's going to be so many things happening in your country. You have to help your leader fight with both hands, because if you're going to hold back one, eventually they will wear you down. They have better resources, they have a better media framework, they set the narrative, you buy into it. Eventually, you will not only disappoint your country, you will disappoint all of us. You will disappoint the continent. I thank you, Your Excellency. And then I didn't acknowledge at the beginning the Right of the Nile Basin Initiative. Sir, I believe among the stars here, I'm the closest. Allow me to take some pride myself. The closest, the nearest to speaking from a technical perspective on the issue of water. Most of you won't understand because you follow me on social media and I speak so much of politics, but I'm also by profession, I'm a irrigation engineer. So that was partly the basis that finally led me to the GAD. I have a little understanding about that, a lot more than most of us, I can assure you, because I've also published papers, incidentally, in very reputable journals. You can type, my name is found everywhere. You type it, you'll find it on politics. You type it, you'll find it on water. You type it, you'll find it on academia. Serious publications, if you do. But my passion, of course, is Africa. So, engineer, I understand the issue of water, but also I don't like to discuss the subject after someone more knowledgeable than myself has discussed it. And so I chose to discuss politics, which I believe I might keep it more. Thank you.
Republic of Ethiopia and Uganda. The Executive Director of Nile Basin Initiative, Engineer Sylvester Martin, something like that. The diplomats of the Ethiopian government in Uganda, starting with my friend Welde Gabriel, something like that. I know Gabriel name is associated with Tigray. Is that true? Not
country.
Hey, what does it mean? Gabriel.
It's like work or task.
Oh, I understand.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. My fellow citizens of the Republic of Uganda, good afternoon, everybody. I don't know if it's still afternoon or evening. My name is Matua Joe Richard, and I am profoundly grateful to be here to speak about the Nile and my people, my beloved people of Ethiopia. First of all, I would like to take this opportunity to thank the ambassador of Ethiopia in Uganda for giving me the opportunity to go to Ethiopia. It was a dream come true. Thank you very much, Ambassador. I'm very grateful, very. In fact, my family wanted to go with me. That's why I have come here with this young man. They were very, very senior. They wanted to go with me. You know, those bureaucracies of visa, passport, and what have you. So I'm very, very grateful. It was very, very important. Ethiopia is a nucleus country in the politics, diplomacy, and everything about Africa. But a mention of Ethiopia is a mention of the origin, the land of origin. We're talking about Africa. We're talking about African resistance to imperialism, colonialism. In fact, if you fail to talk about Ethiopia, then you will not talk about Africa. Something impressed me when I went there. I found streets with the names of countries in Africa. Can you clap for that? Here we have streets with the name of a European. Is that not continuation of colonization? In Ethiopia you have Ghana Street, Uganda Street, Kenya Street. So the material you are seeing here is a Pan-African, a fierce Pan-Africanist, and a very fierce patriot. I'm sure you will not be new to majority of the people who are here. Now, Ethiopia is a country that we must defend for the defense of the glory of Africa, having one country that effectively resisted colonization. Can you clap for that, please? And my people of Uganda who are here, when I went to Ethiopia, I noticed something. Because Ethiopians were not colonized, they developed in their own original organic style. Even the entertainments are Ethiopian. I was very, very proud to be there. And you know to see something foreign. But for us here, even a mere toothpick wanted to be foreign. A mere toilet paper wanted to be foreign. That's when we will say it is the real corporate. So, why did I go to Ethiopia? And what did I say? Fellow Africans who are here, I'm sorry my son was calling my neighbor an Indian, you know. So I think it was necessary to bring him here. You know, he grew in an environment in the apartment where my family stayed. We stayed together with the Indians. So the other color outside mine that he knows is of Indian. That's why he was associated. The neighbor with an Indian. So, my fellow Africans who are here, transboundary water resources are very important in the world. They are sources of our unity, but at the same time, they are hot points of conflict in Africa. 63 years ago, that is in 1960, Lake Chad in West Africa was big enough to serve the population around. Today, Lake Chad has reduced by 90%. Can you imagine? Lake Chad is drying up. It has reduced by 90% in just 63 years. So add another 20 years. Will Lake Chad be existing anymore? Lake Chad is going. And the conflict in the West African country, that conflict, the hot debate, the main reason is the drying of Lake Chad. The river Nile we have here, one day they dry up. Imagine river Nile drying up. Engineer has told us that over 300 million people, they derive their livelihood from river Nile. So that is the point of the issue. So therefore, Can we look at transboundary water resources as a point of unity, as a point of cooperation that my brother Alwadi was stating? But to do so, we must inform ourselves about the transboundary water resources and their challenges. We must then agree to work together, to cooperate, to share the resources of the transboundary water, so that it benefit or they benefit all the people that happen to be part of the transboundary water resources. So it is therefore, first of all, illegal for Egypt to think it owns River Nile. It is illegal, I want to say. It is illogical, it is not comprehensible, it is unfair. So we must not accept such kind of unfairness to continue. No. 85% of the water of the Nile come from Ethiopian highlands. Actually, 15% of the water comes from this River Nile of ours from Lake Victoria. So it is illogical that all the countries that partake the Nile use it equitably, fairly, for the benefit of their people and for the benefit of the people of Africa. So Ethiopia is very right 100% to build a dam of 6,000 megawatt capacity on the Nile. Can you clap for that, please? Ambassador, in Uganda here, you know we have some technocrats who brag so much. They say we have excess electricity in Uganda. I can believe the excess electricity they are talking about does not even reach 6,000 megawatt. Can you imagine? 60 million Ethiopians are not accessing electricity. Must the government of Ethiopia refuse to give electricity to those 60 million people? Don't they have right to have electricity? Something very important. Now, Ethiopia defiantly built the dam. Glory to God. Now the dam is complete. The last filling is going to take place any time from now. But there is something very important. That dam cost $5 billion US. Money contributed by poor, rich, rural, urban, peri-urban Ethiopians. Can you clap for that? 5 billion project in Africa here would be funded by World Bank, would be funded by Exim Bank of China, would be funded by African Development Bank. I am yet to engineer, I am yet to ascertain whether it is truly African Development Bank or it is just African Development Bank in names, but the people, the investor, may not be African. There is a possibility for that. You know, this guy can give us easily. Now, by Ethiopians contributing for that dam, it is a precedent. Another dam will be built anywhere in Africa following that example by locally generated money. I come from West Nile. Before Idi Amin Dada became president of Uganda, majority of the people in West Nile would come to central Uganda here to do petty works. Watchmen, cleaners, going to work in the sugarcane plantation in Ugazi. Now, when Idi Amin Dada became president, the biggest achievement of Idi Amin Dada's presidency in the Western Nile was the mental liberation of the people in the Western Nile to believe that, hey, they can also go to higher offices. I can tell you within that time, very many Western Islands went to greater height, and the majority of the senior doctors in Monaco are from there because of that mental liberation. By Ethiopians building the dam by themselves, Africans contributing to build a mega dam, even other Africans will be mentally liberated, just like the Western Islands were liberated mentally by a mini presidency. So therefore, that dam has historical importance, has symbolic importance. We must look at that dam as something Africa. So I am saying, Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam is actually an African dam. Can we call it so?
Because of integration.
Yes. Finally, Uganda is going to supply electricity from Karuma Dam to South Sudan. What does this mean? If we utilize the resources of transboundary water well, we will share it with the neighbor. In fact, the 6,000 megawatts of electricity that is going to be produced in Uganda will serve the people of South Sudan, Sudan, and Ethiopia. So we must support that idea because we are looking forward into what we call pooling of energy, East African power pool, Southern African power pool. Eventually we shall go for continental power pool. Excess power is put on the grid, on the continental grid, for use by other countries. So Ambassador, the dam is for Africa. Finally, I cannot leave this podium without thanking the embassy people. I think there is one special thing. I have seen a friend of mine has just arrived. Please, you are highly recognized, Madam Sarah. Can you clap for my friend? I learned something very important about Embassy of Ethiopia in Uganda. I think Ethiopians are the best in diplomacy. They are very serious on diplomacy and they follow the friends of Ethiopia. This is unprecedented in Africa here. Maybe your ambassadorial jobs are done on a professional contact. For us here, a political failure can then become an ambassador. So I want to thank the Embassy of Ethiopia for doing diplomacy right. You are the best in diplomacy in Africa here. I thank you very much. Finally, to everyone who has come here, we are all African. Let's love each other. Let's love Africa. Some people feel bad when they're African. Please, Africa is our place. Africa is the best continent. Africa is the richest continent on earth. And we must not accept anybody who tells us that we are the poorest people. We are not poor, except that we are being told that we are poor so that we cannot utilize our own resources so that the foreigners can then predate on it. May God bless you all. Thank you.
By ambassadors of the countries of the Nile Basin based in Ethiopia. And the outcome of that meeting in general is to look at the way how we can live the African spirit, of which is Ubuntu. Ubuntu means we hold our hands together and move together towards a certain destination or a finishing line without leaving anybody behind. That is the meaning of Ubuntu, the African spirit. And for the Nile Basin, which have all regional and global significance, the longest river in the world, the second largest basin in the world, the third. The first is Amazon, Congo basin, and then Nile. The basin which has the ecosystems like wetland, which is the second largest, the Sud in South Sudan, which is the second largest. The other one is Pantal in South America, followed by that. But with a very peculiar characteristics, hydrologically, all rivers flow from north to south, but Nile flows from south to north. That is Nile. Saving people more than 300 million, having a land area like 10% of the total area of the continent, of the countries. So, we cannot leave things to go the way it is there. We have to sit together, work together in a very transparent and friendly manner, trying to clear the mistrust and ideological disorientation. And I know that the issue of how we share water, how we work together, planning and for socio-economic development. On the eastern side, where about 86% is the source of contributing to the main Nile, there has a history of 132 years. From 1891, during the colonial, a very good example is that Ethiopia hasn't been colonized. So there were Ethiopia standing with the Anglo-Italian, Anglo. There is a history also post-independence of the countries. But the involvement of foreign ministers is really very key to clear all of this. Is an effort. And to make sure that we leave no one behind for whatever sake, so that we move together for the future of the Nile. And what is required here is to make sure that we have a common platform. We have a mechanism that really can help the countries sit together, come together, being friends and not enemies. We need not to sow the seeds of enmity, because water actually, the properties of water, and I know there are scientists here, is the best solvent. When you are tackled with any acid, you just run for water. And then something poison comes to, you go for water. You go to hospital when at a critical cannot eat, you have a drip, isn't it? Yeah? Water. Water is life, and you cannot replace it. It has very peculiar, even for the Christians, have been baptized with water. So water is everything. Water. I can continue and continue with that. So knowing that importance of water for our lives and the ecosystem and the future, you talk of anything like development, hydropower generation, food security, maintaining the good environment, call it whatever. Water is at the center of any development. So we must respect water. We must conserve. And this is when water crosses the borders. Be it ground, be it surface. Then we need to respect. We need to conserve it. I was reading this morning the setting of the axis of the earth. And they are saying it has tilted east, like 8 centimeters east, because of pumping groundwater and the balance. So these are scientific debate which is going around now. We are talking of climate change impacts and all this, but there are a number of factors that are caused by human activities and behavior and whatever. So we need to work together. This cannot be worked out in isolation.